Okay, good morning. We're obviously on the same wavelength, and it's this view of the tsunami which brings with it destruction that causes panic, that causes us to build 30,000 long-term care beds rather than think about what we really need. So let's not think of it as a tsunami. Let's rather think of it This is my sister's team. She's 68. We do this on Maui. We're going to ride the wave. We're not going to be having the wave run over us. We can aim high. So how's TRI going to help us ride that wave? That's my theme. Well, we're going to support independent, safe mobility. The one thing that you absolutely need in order to be independent, in order to be able to get your food from the convenience store, in order to be able to go and visit friends, in order to be able to manage, is to try to remain mobile as independently as possible. So we do that. Second thing is, we need to monitor your health status at home. The fact that we're spending so much money on hospitals and long-term care is obviously not the way of the future. The way of the future is we've got to stay at home and be monitored at home. Monitored not in a big brother way, but in a friendly, supportive way, so that we can pick up on things that are going wrong before they go wrong and fix them. And then we need to develop innovative treatments that can actually be delivered at home. Now, sometimes people will have to go to hospital. I groan if anyone that I know who's elderly goes to hospital, because they always come out worse. So let's try, if they go into hospital, let's get them out quickly, and let's try and keep them standing while they're in hospital. Let's not connect them up to lots of wires and tubes and things, most of which are unnecessary, because after a couple of days, they'll never get out again. So there's some common concerns that we all share. What if I break my hip like my mother did? How many people in here have close relatives who broke their hip? Raise your hands. Now look around. It's a third of the room. It's always a third of the room. I don't want to be a burden on my kids. My mum strives crazily not to be a burden on us, and by trying to be independent, she creates so much of a problem. It's unbelievable. But none of us want to be a burden on our kids. I worry they'll take my car keys away. That's the most serious event that'll probably happen in your life. Many elderly believe that it's more serious than the death of a spouse, which is a reflection on relationships. I don't want to live in a nursing home, as Samir said. This is the cause for concern. I mean, we all aspire to these huge houses, which we don't really know what to do with all the space. And some of us have multiple houses, some of us have cottages and boats and stuff. And then one day, we wake up in a 200 square foot room with one cupboard, and maybe sitting in the middle of the room waiting for someone to take us to the toilet. That is not what we aspire to. You know, this first issue of independent mobility, falls are a big intractable problem. I'll give you a couple of statistics. They remain the leading cause of injury-related hospitalizations. Injuries increased by nearly half, by 43%, between 2003 and 2009. That's not just because we've got more older people, but it is huge. Deaths increased 65% by 2003 to 2008. What does that mean? Well, I'll tell you one thing. It means that research has failed. Can you think of any other problem where research has been focused for that length of time and it's produced that result? It's appalling. So we have to have a different approach, and we have a different approach at Toronto Rehab. And it's true that falls, it's very difficult to reduce falls by changing behavior. But it's a lot more effective to reduce falls by changing the environment. because you can't leap over the environment, you're in it. So if your environment prevents you from having falls, then you can make a big success. So I'm going to look at 3 common sites for falls: stairs and steps, bathrooms, slips on snow and ice, just as examples quickly. As you know, we helped change the building code about 2 years ago, and that saved 29 lives and 13,000 serious accidents in the first 5 years. That was the building code for stairs. We're doing more of that work. We're now preparing recommendations for 2020 revision to the building code to deal with bathrooms and to make it mandatory to have grab bars. What a stupid thing that we don't, right? Why do we wait for a fall and then try and put a grab bar in the bathroom? Where do they have to be? How strong should they be? What about this scene every winter? What a stupid thing. Do you know why it's stupid? It's stupid because we walk around on shoes that are slippery. I mean, we went and bought the best winter boots we could, and they were crap. You stand on, here you see 2 degrees in our winter lab, and you saw that guy just struggling to get up 2 degrees. Winter boots. You buy them as winter boots. In 2 years, we've changed the market. We've changed the way people think about buying winter boots. We've changed the way stores sell them, and we've changed the way manufacturers are producing them. We're now testing winter boots for next winter, which are achieving way higher performance than we've achieved before. So, we have a website which everyone goes to now when they buy their winter boots. Soon we'll have a website that'll deal eventually with tripping and other hazards as well. Just one little experiment I'll tell you about. We had one agency this winter who were brave enough to say, okay, give 50 of our workers good boots. Well, they're one snowflake. They're the best boots we had available for this winter. So we gave 50 of them those. And we gave the other 50 $150 each. We decreased the falls by 475% in the group that had the good boots. 4.75 times, 5 times nearly reduction in falls. I talked to the Ministry of Labour about that, and they said, hey, you know, this is a really intractable problem. It's our biggest occupational health care cost. We've heard that you've reduced falls by 5%. This is amazing. I said, it's 500%. It's actually going to be cheaper, we reckon, for this company to spend $1 million a year and buy new boots for every employee, and they'll save 300,000. We're still working on those numbers. We can't publish them yet. But it may be cheaper to buy the whole of the civil service, for example, overshoes of high performance in the next few winters than it will be to pay for the cost of them falling over. So our continued independence and enjoying living at home depends on maintaining safe mobility, and that includes driving. Well, we're doing a little bit of work in that area. As you know, we have a simulator which does something very unusual in the world. When you drive at night, for example, which bothers all of you and me, ours is the first simulator in the world where the headlights that are coming towards you glare. So we can explore that. It's also the first simulator in the world, when it rains, it actually rains in it. And the wiper blades have to clear it. And by the way, I think it'd be neat to develop a better thing than wiper blades. What a silly way of clearing water off a windshield and spreading the oil around. So that's something we have to do. But let's look at the second thing. Monitoring health and function at home for timely intervention. Wayne mentioned this in his presentation. This is how we used to assess people for sleep apnea. 1 in 10 have sleep apnea. If you have sleep apnea, you have 4 times the chance of having a stroke or heart failure, a couple of times, maybe a bit more, of causing a fatal car accident. But you have to go to a sleep lab to be checked out, and people hate it. So now we've invented at TRI a system that you take home. Or you take into your truck. We're doing 1,000 truck drivers at the moment, looking at the cause of trucking accidents. What about this? Wayne mentioned it. Electronic underwear. Here in Toronto, we now have the company that's the leading company in advanced textiles. We actually have 4 products under development at TRI, which will be in the advanced textile range. I'm not sure. When I was a young teenager, I don't think we went to bed in underwear. But now it's sexy to go to bed in your underwear because it talks to your house. So for example, if you start to get cold, your underwear will raise the heat. Your underwear will communicate that your bladder's getting full and it'll turn the lights up so you can get out and go round to the toilet. It'll do all sorts of things, right? Your underwear will wake you up when it's time to get up in the morning. Your bra will jiggle when you need more exercise. There's all sorts of interesting things that are going to happen. And we're right at the forefront of that. You know, your house is going to be intelligent. It already is, right, with Siri and these other boxes and things that you can talk to. And it'll watch you, and hopefully it will have algorithms that will detect that things are going wrong. We've got to change the healthcare system because at the moment no one's actually paid to pay any attention to those results of those algorithms, and the crunch is not going to be the technology, it's going to be how we change our healthcare system so that your family physician even bothers to read your email, let alone to get to interpret some data which gets sent to them. Here on Ron's unit, with Babak and Elam, for example, we automatically monitor gait as people are walking around and have algorithms that detect the deterioration in gait and can warn ahead of time that your gait is deteriorating and you're likely to fall over. That stuff, with help from some of you in the room, is going to get into people's homes eventually. What about this? This is how happy you are, automatically sad and now going happy. Right? Being able to detect how happy you are. Happiness, we never talk about happiness, but happiness is actually a rather important thing. Dignity and happiness, really important to people. Pain is important. With some people who are confused, who would have problems communicating, it's difficult to tell whether they're in pain or not. What if you can monitor whether they're in pain and you can deal with that? You can help them under those circumstances. How powerful would that be? Kathy Magilton here sent me several slides, one of which I latched onto immediately. Somehow when we're older, our face doesn't matter anymore. Our mouth doesn't matter. No one looks after our teeth. Our eyes don't matter. And our hearing doesn't matter because the healthcare system doesn't really look after those things, and it costs money to get them seen to. And it's very difficult to get seen. And a lot of people are going around without a hearing aid, or at least without a battery in it. And a lot of people don't have reasonable glasses and stuff. We can't send all of our seniors who have problems getting around to the optometrist and the ophthalmologist and the audiologist. It's just not going to happen. So we need the caregivers, in this case it's nurses, to have a way of screening people and determining is there a simple solution or do they need expert help. And eventually we need caregivers in the community, generally at home and stuff, to do such work. We've got to develop innovative treatments that can be delivered at home. Wow, the future here is phenomenal. We're already starting it. Robin Green's program is already, actually as part of Walter Schroeder's effort here, is already reaching out into the community to support people with dementia and brain injury as well, by the way, who who can't come to Toronto Rehab or can't go anywhere. They're in Kapuskasing, they're in Timmins, they're in Fergus, God help us. You know, if you're in Fergus, what are you going to do? So now a clinician, a psychologist or a therapist or whatever, will be able to communicate with them. Eventually, you'll see things like this. This is Google-ish, but it'll be something like that, maybe a little less ostentatious. There'll be bubbles that your therapist will be able to get into here and will become immersed in the person's home. We'll be able to see and talk to them, as we all do now with Skype and FaceTime and WhatsApp and stuff. But they'll also have little robots so they can actually feel them and they can pull and see how strong they can pull and stretch them and stuff like that and apply therapy under those circumstances. See this? This is an experiment going on here at the moment. You'll think it's exciting. I think it's pretty crude, but you wait until where it's going. And Miloš won't mind me saying that it's crude because we're part of trying to make it better. Up here in this diagram, you see an external electrode that is detecting what the person wants to do. That's your intention. That's called brain-computer interface. It's detecting what you're thinking, what you want to do. The electrodes on the surface of the skin are in return acting to act those muscles, cause those muscles to act. We'll see it happening here. So he's thinking, I want to make my arm, and when that green light comes on, then we supply the electricity to the arm. It's the next stage. It's much more effective form of FES than just applying the FES by pressing a button and having them do it. Now they think about it, and it builds in that circuit much more effectively. So now, let your mind wander a little bit. And imagine, instead of on the surface of the body with those electrodes, imagine we put those electrodes inside the brain, and we sense what you want to do, or we sense that you've forgotten a name and you can't remember it, or we sense that you've got this insatiable desire to eat another donut, or we sense that you're in pain, or we sense that you're about to have a seizure, then our brain computer responds by applying a little electricity to the area of the brain that's responsible for memory or eating desire, or maybe it'll just lock your jaw so you can't open your mouth, but whatever, maybe more subtle treatment. But now this system can actually respond automatically like a brain pacemaker and can look after you. Well, of course, it poses the ultimate, this is the last slide, it poses the ultimate opportunity for home treatment, doesn't it? Now we can control the body. And the potential is huge. So yes, you've got to go in hospital to have this thing put in, but then you're free to be home and safe to be home. Thank you.